Hi folks, Canadian Prepper here. So I'm just going to make a quick announcement today. I have an upcoming video series coming up. It's going to be a collaboration with another YouTuber, somebody who's not in the prepping and survival genre, but in a way he sort of is. He has a channel called Fresh Out Life After the Penitentiary. So on his channel he details how he ended up in prison. His name is Marcus. He also goes by the name of Big Herc. He did an armed bank robbery when he was younger, and that landed him in jail for 10 years in a federal prison. And he basically gives people advice on how to survive in prison, on how to get rehabilitated, and basically get out of prison without any severe incident that might keep you in there, or of course, as he would say, get your wig split. So this is a very interesting guy. He's done very well for himself, it would seem, outside of the penitentiary since he's been out. Very well spoken, very respectful, doesn't glorify or glamorize the prison life whatsoever. Certainly very mature in his approach to all these discussions. And the reason why I wanted to bring him on the channel is for a variety of reasons. Number one, hopefully share some of his insights on how to survive in prison and how we can extrapolate that to surviving a situation which might entail some sort of without rule of law. Because if you ask me, life in prison, in many cases, even though you're directly under the gun and it's essentially excessive rule of law, when you're behind bars and you're in the yard with people, it's really a without rule of law, and it's really the prisoners who are making a lot of the rules in there. So if you can survive in prison, if you can thrive in prison, in my opinion, chances are you may well thrive in a without rule of law scenario. Now, that's just my opinion. We're going to see what he has to say about it. The other reason is that even if you're a principled person, even if you're somebody who is a very moral and ethical individual who respects the law, any series of unfortunate events can see you make some bad decisions and basically land you in jail. So his advice, I don't think, is not just for people who are living the life of crime or who perhaps are already facing jail time. I think that's his target audience, is people who are facing jail time and they want to know basically how they can survive prison without incident. But I think for all of us, it's good to know these things because, like I say, if you're a principled person, principles and laws don't always coincide. So there's going to be situations where you might believe something is right or wrong, and you fight for that right, and you get the book thrown at you as a result, and you have to do some time. Or maybe an error gets made, maybe you mess up on your taxes, maybe you don't pay some child support that you don't think is just, or something to that effect. Maybe there's some sort of, lawsuit put against you, maybe you get sued, debtor's prison, who knows what the case might be. But the fact is, you may find yourself at some point, even if you're obedient to the law, behind bars. But I'm also going to be asking him a lot of questions about prisoners in the proverbial SHTF scenario. What's going to happen to prisoners? Or what does he think will happen to prisoners? What is going to happen if prisoners are released from prison? You get a lot of mixed opinions about what's going to happen with different types of prisoners. I've heard conflicting opinions about this. I've heard some guards say that their mandate is to basically emancipate the prisoners if, in the case of some sort of large-scale disaster scenario, that they actually have to free them into the surrounding area. Now, what sort of ramifications would that have on those communities? How long would those people last? Who are the prisoners that you should watch out for the most? What are the characteristics of a shot caller in prison? Would the characteristics of somebody who is the head honcho, the alpha dog behind bars, would that carry over into a without rule of law scenario? So we're going to get his opinions on this stuff. I think it's very important that we step out of our own genre, our own bubble from time to time, and try to learn from people who've experienced this lifestyle. Now, I just want to emphasize that it's pretty clear to me that Marcus, and of course myself, don't glorify the life of crime to any extent, in spite of the fact that armed robbery is probably one of the more respectable crimes amongst criminals in prison, in that, it's not like some petty crime that you're doing for drugs. It's not a violent crime. It's not a sexual crime. It's a pretty respectful thing, you know. I mean, even though obviously it's totally wrong to try to rob a bank, obviously, because that's somebody else's money. But to me, if you're going to try to pull that off, you obviously have to have the stones to do it. And it's going to take a lot of brains. You can't just pull something like that off if you're stupid. Now, obviously, they got caught. But the story about how they got caught is pretty fascinating as well. So I'm going to post a link in the video description just to give you guys a bit of a primer. And like I say, this is going to be in my usual interview format. I'm going to ask them the questions, and then I'm going to splice in myself asking the questions just to make it easy for you. I like to give people the opportunity to give thoughtful responses. That's why I don't do live interviews. And also, this makes for a much higher quality video that is going to be perennial and it's going to stand the test of time. I just want to say from the get-go, if you have a bunch of opinions about people in prison, about politics, about race, which is going to be another thing that I'm going to ask him about, I would hope that you would be very respectful with those opinions. I'm going to be moderating the comment section. Any comments that are hateful or just totally inappropriate are going to be removed, and those people are going to be blocked, or your comments are just going to be hidden. So you might think that people are reading your comments, but they're not. I'm okay with leaving constructively critical comments in the comment section, and if you have arguments to back things up. But remember, this is a learning experience. This isn't, you know, you trying to change somebody's mind about how the world works. You're trying to learn from somebody who's spent 10 years in a federal penitentiary and basically came out relatively unscathed and has a lot of life experience and knowledge to share with us that could very well be applicable if there was some sort of breakdown of society and the rule of law was no longer being enforced. Contrary to the average law-abiding citizen, there are some hardened criminals out there who know how to survive in tough times. They're accustomed to all sorts of adversity. They're accustomed to violence. They're no stranger to any sort of social deviancy. So if that becomes the norm, obviously there's a potential there for them to thrive, and for the people who are not accustomed to that to be at an extreme disadvantage. So it's in your interest to take an interest in this upcoming video. I'm not sure what I'm going to title it yet. I'm probably going to title it something along the lines of Ex-Con talks about SHTF, but at the same time, I don't want to pigeonhole the guy, because obviously he's more than just an ex-con. I would hate for my past to forever define me like that, especially if I wanted to turn my life around. So I'm not really sure what I'm going to title the video yet. I want to title it something, though, that's going to get a significant amount of attention and help merge these two genres together, because I think there's a lot that survivalists and preppers can share with that genre of individuals who are watching his content. And of course, we could learn a lot from people who have lived that life as well and have rehabilitated themselves. So stay tuned for this video. It's probably going to be sometime in September here, I'm hoping. Possibly later than that. Hell, it could be in a couple weeks. Really not too sure about the time frame with regard to this, but definitely going to want to stay tuned. And like I said, you know, try to reserve your judgments, because it's very easy to say what you would do and what you should do if you've never walked a mile in a person's shoes. So keep that in mind at all times. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and stay tuned for this epic video series that's coming up in September or October. Thanks for watching. Canadian Prepper out.